Hi everyone, Frenemy here, and welcome to another meta review, a segment where I mash fiction with reality. Today's episode is Death Note, L's 5% and the Monster. One of L's early deductions is that there is a 5% chance of Light being Kira. Now, why 5%? Why not 8, 10, 3%? This is because 5% is all that's needed. Let's go back to one of L's introductions. When L decided to introduce and expose himself to the Kira task force, he asked them to place their phones on a table in a separate room from where they would be. So, naturally, he was accused of not trusting the task force. But he said, "No, I just hate it. I can't stand when phones ring while I'm speaking." Both statements are right. Both statements are true. Behind everything L does, there is a logical and non-logical, personal, or emotional reasoning to it. L's love for sugar and anything sweet also fits into this. We all know that L loves his sweets, but this also complements his appearance and how he works. L's design is specifically done with eye bags, so you can already presume that he doesn't sleep that much. That's why he needs his sugar rush. The stress would also balance out what normally would form as fats. So, L's 5% must also be based on something logical, as much as it is preferential or personal. Enter the bell curve, also known as the Bell diagram. The Bell diagram is used to test whether a hypothesis is true. There are two types of hypotheses, the null and alternate hypotheses. The alternate is only valid once the null is rejected. There are two extremes, both normally composed of 0.025, which combined forms 0.05. 0.05 is representative of 5%, as 1.0 here represents the whole of the Bell diagram. The null hypothesis in Death Note is Light is most likely not the murderer. He is most likely not Kira. The alternative hypothesis is Light is most likely the murderer. He is most likely Kira. So, L's 5% hunch that Light is Kira is statistically significant enough to warrant the investigation. A common misconception with the Bell diagram is that just because there's a 0.05 or less result, that means that the alternative must be true. While in fact and in actual practice, it's more of saying that the null hypothesis is incorrect or most likely to be incorrect. You must look into that result deeper to obtain the factual result. So now that we know that L's personality is equally personal and logical, let's move on. The monster speech. This speech was animated in the second Real Light movie shown after the anime series concluded. In order to avoid copyright infringement, I'll read it myself. So here we go. The setting is that L through a laptop was talking to children in Whammy's house. A kid asked, "Can you tell me something that you're not good at? Or something that you're scared of?" And L replied, "Well, I suppose monsters. There are many types of monsters in this world. Monsters who will not show themselves and who cause trouble. Monsters who abduct children. Monsters who devour dreams. Monsters who suck blood. And monsters who always tell lies. Lying monsters are a real nuisance. They are much more cunning than other monsters. They pose as humans even though they have no understanding of the human heart. They eat even though they've never experienced hunger. They study even though they have no interest in academics. They seek friendship even though they do not know how to love. If I were to encounter such monster, I would likely be eaten by it. Because in truth, I am that monster." One thing I've realized is that this is a bit of a rationalization on L's part. In this speech, apart from L basically telling who he is, he also points out that the person who can defeat him is someone like himself. With L's ego and unchallenged intellect prior to meeting Light, L protects his ego by saying that only he, in this case a version of him, can defeat himself. There's also a bit of compartmentalization here. According to Wikipedia, compartmentalization is a subconscious psychological defense mechanism used to avoid cognitive dissonance, a phenomenon where reality and beliefs does not match. The conflict with L is that he does not fully acknowledge that what he's doing is wrong or what he's doing is right, whereas Light views himself as a completely justified and righteous person. Compartmentalization separates these two into two distinct aspects to avoid cognitive dissonance and self-doubt, when in fact L functions as both at the same time. L doesn't really view himself as justice, he just wants to win. Compartmentalization makes his cheats, such as kidnapping and illegal surveillance, as something justified. For a moment, he forgets that he is a monster. Compartmentalization says that as long as he is doing it to catch Kira, it's alright. In reality, L is a monster hunting other monsters.